Okay, good morning. My name is Candace Ratliff. I'm the owner of Gruntwork Pros. And just like I said, I wanted to run through the small business, the African American Chamber, Shreveport, of course, getting through that. It's a very early morning, but I wanted to get this out of the way. The Shreveport Bossier African American Chamber is offering up to $5,000 in a federal grant, and they have several um, eligibility requirements as well as documentation requirements. And all I did, I said I read through and I looked at what kinds of things that I would do if I were answering this. First of all, I would seek help in a second eye, and someone who partners with me who has read through several grant applications is willing to offer time services, of course. The difference between myself and some of the resources I'm going to share with you is that I run a for-profit business, so I would charge for those things. So I still am going to run through pretty much whatever it is that I feel you would need to pull through the application and get the bones of it going. So hopefully I'm going to be stopping sharing and sharing just a couple of times throughout this, because I want to make sure that all my windows are showing. Like, I put share, push the window, but it wants me to tell which screen I'm looking at the moment. So we're gonna go to the application itself, but I also have a document where I have already copied and pasted all the questions, and I will make it like, so you don't have to go back and forth in the application. I will make that available to you for free on my Beacons AI site, which is just a separate site that I have where you can just download documents. And then there'll be a list of some things, like if I make a link or if I make a document while we're doing this, I will definitely um send that, do that structure. Uh and that'll be separate. But this little, like the copy where I copy and paste the questions out of here, you're welcome to it. So I said all of that to say, let's get started. Again, Gruntwork Pros. I'm here to help small businesses. I believe my mission is to drive business forward in Shreveport, and have been doing this for about 9 to 10 years of just helping small businesses do things like this. So let's look at the eligibility requirements, and they are all requirements to do this. You have to have 5 employees or fewer, which is, most of the small businesses that start with the chamber have 5 employees or fewer. That could include yourself if you're drawing on payroll. The business is located in Shreveport Bossier, in the Shreveport Bossier area. So you thinking all your 7-Elevens, 7-Eleven through wherever. Make sure that, you're within Shreveport or Bossier. You've been in operations for 12 months, just a year at least, and then you are legally registered with the state, the LLC corporation, things like that. So I'm going to take a little bit of time and go ahead and show you where you should go to check your eligibility status, or even register. So you're going to go to Go Biz. So LA, if you don't have an account, you will need to create an account. Here I do already have one. Child. Letting y'all see how the sausage is made over here. And see, I've done my reinstatement here. Just check. I would pull that down. Uh, but let's go back. It's loading slow. They close. Yeah. And this is the document right here that you'd want them to see. This pretty state of Louisiana, blah blah blah. You want that. So this, be sure to renew your fees, or even you would start a filing. Build your dashboard, start a filing. Make sure that you're in good standing here. So that's what they're asking with that step. So then, primary source of income comes from this business. That means you might have your little part-time job, but this is what pays the bills for you. And so you should be able to either show revenue or income through business statements. And you want to do things like your balance statement and payroll um would be that. And if you hadn't ever built a balance statement, your business bank account, because you want to show proof that you are keeping your funds separate, your business bank account at the end, when they summarize it, kind of is the basics of a balance sheet, where it says this is all the income. So if you have been getting paid from gigs and you've been accepting deposits and you put all your money in that account, and then it can show, and if you spend off of that account, it can show what you spent. So then my business generates at least 25,000 in annual revenue. There may be some leniency on that, but imagine, like, if you have a business that you make at least $2,000 a month from that. I am the majority owner. The proof of that can be in that SOSLA website I just went to, where you create that, because you do have to say if there's any other owners or things like that. It also, proof of that can be from your EIN number statement that you get from the IRS from filing your LLC. My business experienced a negative impact due to COVID during January 2020 through March of 2023. And they want you to write an impact statement, but for me, I would go back into my old emails, my old text messages. Like, if you had a restaurant and there was a cancellation of a catering order, or you were an artist and you booked a gig and that gig got canceled during 2020, and somebody said, well, oh, you have to do this. Or even you had to change your health protocols. Like, I'll be as um eccentric and as detailed as possible. Like, before, um when COVID hit, a lot of times we had to have proof of COVID test, a negative COVID test. You had to purchase PPE for yourself or your staff. You had to purchase, even if you were a person who normally met people in person, you had office space and you had to purchase your Zoom or your or new software, because now you had to do your things virtually. Like, when you write that statement, another thing, if the cost of an item went up because they had to, or you had to purchase twice as much hand sanitizer, or even put stickers down for 5 feet apart in your place of business to make sure that people were standing 5 feet apart, or change your protocols. Those are some of the experiences that they're talking about. Um, those cancellations. And then this is the The last criteria, which is I'm a member of the Shreveport Bossier African American Chamber of Commerce, and there you would want, at this particular point, they are accepting proof of, um, let's see, is Shreveport Bossier proof that you are at, your receipt that you are a member. So if you weren't a member before, you can join. Let's see. And here's the membership scale here. And get started. And then when you get that, you would pull down your receipt, take a screenshot or something, because as soon as you hit, move this. As soon as you hit this, the first thing that they want you to do is pull in proof of membership of payment and business registration and tax documentation. So your last tax statement, whether you fill out a Schedule C or you do a separate set of taxes for your business, those are the three things that they want dropped into this box. Okay, so rather than doing all of this again, like I said, I've extracted the questions out here on this Word document. I'm gonna stop sharing, but I'm gonna make sure I share my screen so that you can see. Okay. So the first question that they are asking is provide a summary of your business plan, including um, your model, target market, competitive advantage, include any plans for sustaining the business and long-term strategies. And whew, excuse my nose and all of these kinds of things. I'm recording this at 7 o'clock in the morning. So um I guess everything, if you hear anything. All right. So the business plan that I like to use is out on SBA.gov, business plans, um, right here. And if you scroll down, they have a couple of different kinds of business plans. And then they have Andrews, these are people who have wrote those. But this lean business plan right here, download Andrews, and I'm put this, I'm building a Word document with all the links that I'm talking about, um, kind of right, like on so that you can have it to use, um, that I'm just like anything that I'm discussing, uh, so I would use Andrew's business plan because it's lean. It's just this one page, and he goes through an example, and it talks about the target market, milestones, teams, roles, all that kind of stuff. But that is one template that I just like to use when I'm brainstorming about business, because if you don't know how you're going to make money, if you don't know what kind of expenses that you have, you know, you're not building a long-term strategy. But again, they ask you, what are your long-term strategies? So that's the business plan I like to use. But they do have traditional that are a little longer, more detailed. But this is what they're asking, right? Also, the chamber is going to ask you for a mission statement later on in here. And so if you've already done it in your business plan, you can just copy it and paste it and put it in there. It talks about your competitive advantage, which is your, unique value proposition. So like I said, I would go out to the Small Business Administration because this is a federal grant, and SBA is .gov. So that is why I would use those templates. So back to the next question. Describe how the grant funds would be used and include your approaches, methods, and planned activities. And for me, I would write, I would have a paragraph called approaches, one called methods, and called planned activities. And from this planned activities, they're going to ask you for an implementation plan. So, um, let's look at this. It says identify at least 3 measurable goals or outcomes to you expect to achieve with this grant. For example, marketing, job creation, customer growth, or technology upgrades. And when you think about those 3 things, I'm gonna do kind of like a little sample here. For me, if I was a retail space, to improve my point of sales, and you want your the other thing about these goals, I know a lot of people tell you about SMART goals and things like that, but I would use the SMART goal method with this, and I'll just look up any little SMART goals here, little SMART goals acronym. So the thing about a SMART goal when you're writing them, they're clear and well defined, like who, what, when, where, and why. They're measurable. That means you can track what the outcome should be, and the timeline. So that's the other thing. So they should be achievable. Um, if you are new to rocket science, the goal shouldn't be to go to the moon or and beyond tomorrow. It may be to build uh an electronically safe workstation. Like I mean, that can monitor space. So you want something achievable, not um out of the out of the norm. You want it to be relevant to, I would say, your mission statement. Anytime you write a goal or do something or have a conversation about your business, and you should be able to take that mission statement that you have and say, and that's why, our goal is to help small businesses. And that's why I am going through the small business grant application. So if my mission, when you do this, it should be relevant, and then it should be time bound. And when we talk time bound, short-term goals should be less than 2 years. Long-term goals are 2 years and beyond. All right. So I would write it in this SMART format when I write a goal. So for example, if I'm a restaurant, I would say my goal is to improve my point of sale service uh, by upgrading my cash registers to Squarespace cash registers within the next 6 months. And the goal, how I measure it, is the time between my transactions, in the retail space, especially if it's a restaurant, should be reduced by 2 minutes versus my manual system I have for taking orders now. And so that's how I would write those. And you need to come up with three. Like they said, it could be to add a staff member for a particular time, to add a social media manager to improve my marketing relationships or reach out to my customers, and increase my revenue in the next 6 to 8 months. So when you talk about those examples, I would use the SMART method that had some tie to what they're saying, right? So make sure that they're smart, you know, time bound. Then your outline for your implementation plan, and a timeline for carrying out the project. And for me, I was building kind of like, and I'll do it right here. Kind of like this little, not necessarily a work breakdown structure, but um going across, I would have my big phases right here. I would put my steps, like who is responsible, and then like when I plan, sorry you guys, when I plan to have this done. So these goals should be smart. Yeah. Okay. So, okay. If my screen went black, is because I wasn't sharing the web page, and I do apologize for that. Let's see. But so for this, our outline, the implementation plan, who's responsible, and then like the timeline. So I'm gonna do a couple of these examples. If I was a daycare, I'd say something like build a playground um on the campus of my daycare. And I would write my steps down. I'd say clear the side of my building, to get permits. And now this is uh create a request for proposal, take bids and price it out, select the person, things like that. And then I would say myself, myself, the owner, is responsible for researching bids. My bookkeeper is responsible um, for keeping track of project costs. And my contractors are responsible for executing gathering permits, da 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 da. This project timeline. is set to begin February 25th and in May 25th. Um, and just be detailed about permits should take about 2 weeks. To get from NPC, blah, 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 blah. So you just want to be as detailed as possible. And then you may have a second phase where you're adding a computer lab to um the daycare center. It'll be a computer lab or technology in the back because you're talking about um the improvement. All right. So just moving through this, describe any additional funding sources or partnerships supporting this project. Because the thing about a grant, they want to know that you have skin in the game. So at this particular point, some of the things may be revenue, it could be a business loan, it could be, that the neighborhood association wants to see you win, and you could be a partnering with other nonprofits, and you want to tell how. So with anything, whether it be a restaurant or anything, like if you have a business banking relationship, if you have been selling like hotcakes and you're like, hey, the maximum where a lot of the sources are going to come from are from me doing sales. So you want to tell that, but also it's a grant. People want a story about how you partner with the bank or you partnered with Dell to get the laptops for the computer lab that you're building, or you partnered with LSU, like you're a restaurant and you partner with the LSU cafeteria to provide low cost lunch on the blah blah blah. I don't know. But this is a part where you want to be, detailed to say how else have you brought revenue or money to this, because they want to see collaboration, they want to see partnership. So be creative and be detailed right there. So again, provide a summary of your business plan, including your competitive advantage. Go to the SBAA. Go to the SBA.gov, which let me make sure you guys can see that website. Stop sharing. Go to my windows. And make sure you can see. This is the SMART goals, where I was talking about that. And if you chat GPT SMART goals, it'll be right there. And then going back, here's the SBA the SBA.gov website. Write your business plan, go down. I like lean, but the traditional one to me in this particular situation is going to give you very detailed, and you can use Rebecca's or Andrew's. I like Andrew's lean, but Rebecca's has a lot that would fit for this particular grant. So going back to my Word document, when you get in there, the next thing they're going to want you to do is provide a detailed breakdown of how you will use your grant funds. Add rows as needed. So you see, zoom in a little bit. This is what it'll look like. I suggest having your own little separate spreadsheet that looks like exactly this item, insert your little table. And depending on how much you're asking for, I'd ask for the max. That's just my opinion. I would have line items that totaled up to it says up to 5,000. I would have, um, you know, if the example that I'm using is I would use it to upgrade my point of sale system. You may be adding a social media person or paying for some social media training. And I would say, if it was for training, get serves get serve safe certified, and the estimated cost for that certificate is $75. The funding source, um or grant match, if the class costs $75, I'd say $25 of that'll be mine. Or I plan on paying for it up front, and then the estimated my return on getting that is my ServSafe license allows me to operate and provide safe food in my business. It could also be like a physical item, like you're buying a new cash register. Um, the estimated cost of that is $250. You plan on putting 125 in of your own money, and then the return of it is reduced time in taking orders online and in person. You could add a social media manager, which will help with your marketing strategies. So they want to know what you're going to use the money for, how much it'll cost, your funding source, or because it says grant or match. And so I would put where it would what would come from. Where if it's mine, yours, I'm expecting it from the grant. All right. This is the stuff that it could be used for: payroll and benefits, business, mortgage, or rent. So occupancy costs. This is you know, you paying where you look, where you operate business, your utilities, your gas, water, phone, internet services, operating costs, inventory, marketing supplies, software, professional fees, and licenses. So hey, if you have to keep a license going, like you have to have CPR license and things like that, that's really good. Technical assistance, accounting, legal services, HR, business, IT services, or website development. Ooh, because keeping the website up. Other services supporting branding, certifications, feasibility studies, or training. So when you make that budget for that up to 5,000, and it's like, I want to get an AI certificate, or I want to do it. Now is the time, as long as it applies to your business. The other thing, owners draw owner draws or personal expenses are not eligible. Debt principal repayment or refinancing, that's like credit card debts, loans, and things like that. Refinancing, taxes, fines and penalties, or political lobbying activities. So don't use this to pay your congressman to influence, if you sell corn, the price of corn. All right. Explain how receiving a grant will benefit your business. I say at that particular point, you need to tell the story. I'd I'd say if you've been helping the community, if you've been making a difference, talk about how much more you can make a difference, and how much more having this grant um will help you do that. If you've been doing like some kind of health thing, I would say I've helped 300 people realize their what they're allergic to and how to be their healthiest self. And with this grant, I think I can help 300 more. That's the time to tell the story. Describe how you will measure success. And this is the time when you go back into that implementation phase. Um, you will, you can say, with a new cash register, I can reduce the time it takes to serve my customers. With taking this new training, I can offer innovation in the way I provide care to my customers. I plan with this $5,000 to hire someone to do my social media marketing, which I believe will increase my customer share from about 50 repeat customers to gaining 100 new. So you want to be able to go from that implementation and describe everything in a quantitative sense, a numbers sense. So from having one customer to having 10, from having 0 employees to having 3, from whatever to whatever. That's how you will measure whether or not that the grant is successful. So then this is like the next screen. Um, and it's just asking you the regular stuff. Your business name, address, and phone number. Now, when you get down here, it's asking the owners and the names and the roles. And remember, they want to know that you have more than 51% ownership in this particular area. And look at there. There's that mission statement. You got to have it. And when you go through one of those SBA business plans, one of the lines is a mission statement. Just copy and paste it. Your particular mission statement, not just theirs. They have samples in there. The number of employees, your annual revenue, which you can get from your tax statement, or just get you a 12 don't just get you a 12-month bank statement that kind of can what you would give to your tax person. I do believe that using your tax return statement is gonna be key in providing real numbers that translate across what they're asking. And then here they're asking for your EIN DUNS or UEI number, and um you should have it, right? But if you don't have it, you never owned a business or anything like that, um you can get one by going to irs.gov/EIN number. That is free. It only takes a few minutes to do. I'm gonna uh go out and I'll show you this just right quick on the website. Give me just a second. All right. irs.gov, and then I always go /EIN and apply for one. But hopefully if you've been in business for a year, uh you got this stuff, You got this in a folder somewhere in your emails or some kind of thing. All right. So excuse all the stopping and starting, sharing and things like that. Going back to this. Um a UEI number means, you're registered in what they call sam.gov. Sam, I don't, DUNS, I wouldn't say is going away, but it's used less and less unless you're doing like defense contracting or whatever. So UEI number means that you're registered in the system of award management with the government to do government contracting, and it's like a unique identifier. Then NAICS codes, which are industry codes, um, they may have their own set. The state of Louisiana may have their own state set, but when you come out to the internet, I'll show you. Next codes are like 5-digit codes that say what you're doing as a business. Like there are these national codes. Yeah. Okay. And if you see me, I've done it several times. I am registered in the system of award management. And so the code for training and development, you'll get a little 5-digit code um, here. And a lot of these websites are good, but if you always want to trust something that, uh, has a .gov, a little .gov to it. I like this. Okay. It's not hard. So say you did construction. It'll tell you. So construction has several things, but that main first number is going to be 212. But you would kind of go look like, do you do oil and gas? Do you do sand and gravel? And you can be as detailed as possible. You build cabins, you condominiums, all these kind of stuff, but you want to get these 5-digit codes, and you can put more than one. Like I do professional development, I do training, consulting, things like that. So, my number there, let's see. Trial consulting. See how detailed you can be. I use 541 541 611 right there. So that's what I would put as those numbers. But, go to census.gov, do the little NAICS, but that's your North American Industry Classification System code. Very common in contracting. So back to, and we're almost done. Um, I was trying to keep this right at an hour or under. This is when they're going to say your application checklist, completed application form, which is at the top when you clicked proof of business location, your address. This will be a good thing is your occupancy license to put in there, your tax returns, certificate of good standing. Remember, we went out to sosla.gov. Financial statements. I would use a business balance sheet or a cash flow statement here, if you have one, or even a redacted bank statement. Just take your personal account off of it. Proof of majority ownership. That's also going to come from your business standing on sosla.gov, or either your printout from your EIN that says who owns what. COVID impact documentation. At this particular point, I believe they asked for you to write an impact statement about, your cancellations, your having to buy PPE, how your industry changed. Like it used to cost me, I had a set of, I'm exaggerating. I had a set of metal forks um that I used in my restaurant, and I had to switch to plastic during COVID, which increased my my expenses, because now I was buying plastic to serve people on. I was buying PPE for all my employees every week because they had to have masks and change those masks every hour. I had to all the things. Like I said, I'm trying to think of a million different examples you could use. And of course, proof of the SBA AC membership, and then your invoices, receipts, proof of payment for reimbursement, like the things that you bought during the pandemic. If you have those, I would put those in there. And then you have to sign off on whether or not you're using the funds for approved purposes stated. Provide all receipts. Like, this is if you already spent the money, you got it. You know you bought the mask. You know you bought the extra hand sanitizer. You had to get your building reformulated and redone to accept people during COVID. Um, and then you submit a final report. You're not gonna. This is what you agree to do, and then remain in compliance with local, state, and federal laws, like keeping your SOSLA stuff going up. And this is, to me, about just as much as about organizing your files, because they're going to ask you for your articles, your LLC filing with the state. That's where you'll upload that. Proof of operations for 12 months. Right there. See, here's some examples. Your license, lease agreement, utility bill, bank statement, or tax return showing continuous activity for 12 months, proof of membership. And then, so that's what they're asking for there in those three statements. And so then review, applicate, and then you're going to hit submit. Like, they're going to ask you, I think they actually ask you to upload it twice, or either I copied this screen twice. But see, look right here. COVID impact statement. Each application must include a short paragraph describing how their business was impacted by the pandemic between January 20th, 2020 and March 2023. Please explain whether your business experienced decreased revenue, increased costs, temporary or permanent closures, loss of employees or customers, and financial insecurity, or limited access to capital. So I copy that out. All right. And so these are all the questions before you hit submit. Um again, I have someone on my team who I partner with who's written grants. We do not we will not offer you like a guarantee that you get your money, but we do consult. Um I'm going to put this page, this is free because it's just copying and pasting the out on my Beacons AI page to let you download it, so you'll have a set of the questions just for you to review. Now, those resources with the links, like to the IRS, to the SBA, all those links I will put on a separate sheet. And if you would like to tip me the sheet, it will be like $3 on Beacons AI. Just so. And if you need help with the application or organizing your files, or want a second eye, please give me a call, give me an email. Again, my company is Grunt Work Pros. We're out here. We do this kind of work. I'll show you my website right quick. And I would love to help you through this. There are other resources like the chamber has what they call an Apex Accelerator. Here's my website here. So again, book a consult, that kind of thing on Square. And will help.